All right, we have more changes unfolding in the U.S. housing market and major news happening over at the Federal Reserve. Changes that have the Fed announcing their pivot yesterday officially from the podium. The chairman of the Fed, Jerome Powell, made some shocking statements that are a complete 180 from what he said just 1 month ago during the November FOMC meeting. Let's be clear, this is a change in policy, a change in language, a shift from their goal of tightening financial conditions to doing, well, the complete opposite. So we're going to look at what just happened, what this means going forward, what we can expect for interest rates, mortgage rates going forward, and most importantly, for the U.S. housing market, as Zillow just released their November data set, synced it into our database. So we're going to look at the big takeaways. Which markets are continuing to fall, which aren't. And if you want access, by the way, to SnapForce Real Estate Insights to use these maps and access the data yourself, the link is in the description. But before we get started, press the like button and consider subscribing. Helps the channel out, and I appreciate your support. So the Fed, folks, the U.S. Federal Reserve just concluded their December FOMC meeting, an event where all the Fed presidents and governors get together behind closed doors and decide the fate of the U.S. economy, of U.S. monetary policy, whether to hike, to pause, or to cut the Fed funds rate, the overnight rate. And more importantly, they decide how to spin this, how to spin their decision to the public. And that's exactly what happened yesterday, announcing they're going to leave the night rate unchanged at 5.25%, 5.5%, continue with their pause. But this is far from the same pause that we saw the last few meetings. Take the dot plot that they released, which isn't all that useful, a way to determine what they're going to do in the future, but it's a reliable way to deduce a change in policy, because for the first time since the Fed began raising rates 20 months ago, not one single member's dot shows any further rate hikes. In fact, they show the opposite, a ramping up in policy easing. Like you see here, this is the actual dot plot. But again, the dot, isn't much help. But what stands out far and away from everything else that happened during the meeting is Jerome Powell's press conference and some of the statements that he made, which are wildly different, completely different from just 1 month ago. We're talking a complete 180 here, folks. And I'm going to play the clips for you in a minute. I'll show you what he said on November 1st, last month, after the last FOMC meeting, versus what he said yesterday. He flipped. The Fed flipped. The pivot is officially here, and we are at peak tightening right now. Like we said during last video, start preparing for rate cuts because they're coming. But what's interesting is how they're riding this rally. I spoke about this on Twitter this morning. They're letting the market think this purposely. Realize everything that we hear at these press conferences is scripted, choreographed, and rehearsed ahead of time. The words that they use are precise. They're chosen for a reason, knowing in this case, the reaction that the market would have. For example, take a look at this. Betting markets now have around an 18% chance that we're going to see the first rate cut in January, in just 1 month, and 71% odds that the Fed cuts the night rate in March. That means the markets are betting that there's like a 90% odds to see a rate cut by March. Last week it was like 38% or something like that. Look, something is clearly happening. We all know they have no problem lying to us. That's just part of their job, smoke and mirrors. It's why you see so much analysis of these meetings and like any statements that the members make, besides the fact that, they're important. The statements, the meetings, obviously important for monetary policy, but there's always more to the story, more happening than they're letting on. Here is 1 month ago. This is Jay Powell's press conference after last month's meeting, after the November FOMC meeting. He was asked point blank if they're planning on cutting rates or not. Listen to what he said. Then after we listen to this, we're going to also listen to what he said yesterday. So last month first, then after I play this, we'll listen to yesterday's presser. Watch.
What then is the potential impact on the trajectory of rate cuts? Could we see those maybe pulled forward or have to see more than what the September SEP indicated?
So it's the fact is the committee is not thinking about rate cuts right now at all. We're not talking about rate cuts.
Clearly dismissing the idea outright of cutting rates, right? That was just 1 month ago. Now listen to him yesterday. Watch this.
The other question, the question of when will it become appropriate to begin dialing back the amount of policy restraint in place, that begins to come into view and is clearly a topic of discussion out in the world and also a discussion for us at our meeting today.
So there's clearly more happening here. We've seen the writing on the wall over the last month. When you begin to see the consumer data come in so weak, it means the Fed is done. That's what they were waiting for. Once the pain hits the household sector, it's game over, because there's more where that came from. The lags that accompany the tightening is real. And going into next year, there's also that wall of loan maturities coming that they're trying to get ahead of. So speaking about the consumer, about the household sector and the financial belt tightening that's been happening, well, take a look at this. Zillow just released last month's housing data, released yesterday, synced into Snap for us. What we're looking at is their home value index data set by county. Dark red means the county's down double digits. Blue means it's positive. I'm going to show you what this map looked like last month in a minute so you can see the difference. As the markets that are crashing continue to grow, it's based around specific areas though, right? But the radius to which the surrounding counties are falling has been expanding. But first, just an overview. This is what we have for last month. And again, this is the newest data, November's housing data. It's as up to date as you're going to get. These are the markets with the largest peak to trough price drops. We have New York County now down over 20%, Williamson County down 16%, Travis County, which is the Austin area, down 15%, San Francisco down 15%, the Bronx or Bronx County down 15%, Jefferson Parish, Louisiana down 14%, and Cambria County, PA down 14% as well. Now what's interesting is what may be about to happen in the coming months. With Jerome Powell loosening policy, well, he didn't technically loosen policy yet, but he verbalized it, and he's letting the market, bond markets, do the loosening for him. For example, take a look at the 30-year mortgage rate now, crashing following his press conference yesterday, sitting around 6.8%. This is a good thing though, folks, not a bad thing. If you want the housing market to continue correcting, this is what's needed in the short term. As long as the Fed doesn't drastically cut rates next month, this will probably speed up the correction. Realize all the people who are struggling right now, which there's a ton of. We looked the other day at 401k hardship withdrawals. People who are tapping their retirement savings soared by 300% according to Fidelity. Now, why would they do that? Because they need the cash. This is a tough time for a lot of people. They're stuck right now. Can't sell their house because rates are too high. So it's led to this lock-in effect where inventory is rising, but slowly. Well, mortgage rates have fallen 100 basis points in the last month. That could lead to a surge in new listings, existing single-family homeowners who decide to list their home. Look, in the big picture, mortgage rates are still high. 7% is very high, but it may help shake some new listings out after falling from 8 to 7%. All right, so let's take a look at home values. We have Seattle, Washington, King County, now down 8.5%, 4,000 active listings. Median home price is at $804,000, which is high. It's likely we're going to see King County start falling again in the coming months. You could see in June of last year, median home value in King County, $878,000. Now it's only $804,000. Still 35% over pre-pandemic prices, though. 35% over November 2019. 44% over November 2017 prices. Also, if you want access to this system to use the maps yourself, I put the link in the description of the video. Let's jump down to Portland, Oregon. Now down 8%. Current house in Portland has a value of $490,000. Last year, the median value was $533,000. So still 21% over November 2019, 23% over November 2018 prices. What about during the peak of the last housing bubble? Wow, Portland's currently 80% more expensive today than it was during the peak of the last housing bubble. How about Riverside, California? Not moving at all, folks. In fact, prices have increased a bit here, now down only 1.2% since last year. Median home value in Riverside, $580,000. Realize this is the affordable area of SoCal. If you go next door to Orange County, for example, you're looking at a median home value of over $1 million, $1.056 million. That's 48% over November 2019 prices, 55% over November 2017 prices, which puts us right around where we were during the peak of the last housing bubble. How about Boise? Boise, Idaho. Always lots of people ask about Boise. Let's take a look. Boise is now down over 11%. Median home values here. The median home value here is currently $486,000. Last year it was close to $550,000. So the typical Boise house has seen a loss of value of around $70,000. Still 50% over November 2019 prices, 90% over November 2017 prices. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, got something out of it, press the like button. If you didn't, that's alright too. Either way, I appreciate you watching.